Today, I will try to show a clear picture of the powers at play at the beginning of Season 7. As we saw in the Season 6 finale, House Targaryen has finally left Slaver's Bay, now called the Bay of Dragons, and set sail towards Westeros. As the massive fleet sails, we see ships with sails bearing the sigils of House Martell and House Tyrell. That and the scene between Varys, Olenna Tyrell, and Elaria Sand from earlier in the episode seem to tell us that House Targaryen is in an alliance with the Houses Martell and Tyrell. Adding House Greyjoy under Yara and the massive amounts of Dothraki warriors following Dany, the thousands of Unsullied and Daenerys' free dragons, House Targaryen has the greatest numbers by far. It should also be noted that House Targaryen already has a massive force in Westeros, as House Tyrell and House Martell likely have called their banners and amassed massive amounts of troops in the kingdoms of Dorne and the Reach. Over in the Crownlands, Queen Cersei Lannister is in a very weak state, as blowing up the Sept of Baelor, and with it killing members of many noble families, has likely ended any support she may have had with her vassals. It is more than likely that those who follow the faith of the Seven will desert her army, and the city of King's Landing will be in its worst state so far. The only forces that she could muster would be the City Watch and the Lannister man-at-arms directly under her control. With the ashes of Sir Kevan Lannister lying in the ruins of the Sept of Baelor, Jaime Lannister now leads the entire army of the Westerlands, and having been discharged from the Kingsguard, is now the rightful Lord of Casterly Rock, even if he does not wish to have that title. With the War of the Five Kings having ended several years ago, the armies of House Lannister have likely been at least partially replenished, but even with all the inexperienced soldiers, its ranks are still packed with veterans of the past wars, and thus House Lannister under Jaime is still a mighty force. In the Riverlands, things are not going as well. They have been the central battlefield for most of the past wars, and because of that are infested with bandits, overrun by sellswords and broken men, thieves and bands of poor men with nothing to lose. Even the House of Frey, charged by the Iron Throne with keeping the king's peace, is now likely going to descend into civil war, with the vast amounts of possible heirs that Lord Walder left behind. In any case, the Riverlands for the most part can no longer provide anyone with anything, save for a few strong houses like the Lannisters of Seaguard, and even they are probably saving all their strength to ward off the Ironborn raiders. In the Iron Islands, Euron Greyjoy has been constructing a grand fleet, and even with the losses inflicted upon the Ironborn ranks when House of Bolton pushed them out of the north, King Euron Greyjoy commands a formidable force that will soon be capable of striking most of Westeros. With his plan to join House Targaryen foiled by Yara and Theon, it is likely that he will provide an obstacle for House Targaryen's fleets before they can land in Westeros. The armies of the Vale have largely remained unspent and therefore have become one of the strongest forces in Westeros. When Lord Petyr Baelish traveled north to aid Jon Snow's army against House Bolton, he only took the Knights of the Vale with him, the Knights. In a feudal society, most knights own a small keep and each have their own levies that they can provide to their lords in times of war. With that information, we can assume that the armies of the Vale are at least 20 times larger than what we saw riding into battle against House Bolton. This gives Lord Petyr Baelish command of one of the strongest forces left in Westeros, as each of the knights with him would have several dozen men under their command back in the Vale. House Stark has been restored to power, and most of the northern lords now bow down to a new king in the north. But because of the amount of Northmen lost during King Robb Stark's campaign in the south, and the piles of Northmen lost in the Battle of the Bastards, the North no longer has the might it once had. Adding the fact that winter has finally arrived, and even more Northmen will have to return home to keep their families alive, King Jon Snow is in a weak state at the beginning of Season 7, despite the happy note it ended on. Only a few wildlings remain to slightly bolster his ranks, but not enough to change him from being one of the weakest powers at this point. Far beyond the wall, marches an army that can easily rival that of House Targaryen. The only thing that stands between the North and certain doom is the Wall, which itself is in a poor state. Atale leads what's left of the Night's Watch, fewer than 1,000 men spread over 3 castles. However, they may have some hope left as Lord Beric Dondarion leads the Brotherhood without banners north, planning to fight the White Walkers. The Brotherhood seems to have grown in size massively, as they were able to damage House Frey's forces in the Riverlands, and may be joined by the remnants of House Tully's army, who have been forced to disband when House Frey and House Lannister took Riverrun. We are now in the final stretch of the series, and everything is coming together. House Targaryen sails west bringing a horde of Dothraki warriors and other Essosi warriors. Cersei has a tight grip on King's Landing, but almost no army outside it. Jaime Lannister must deal with King's Landing in the coming Targaryen Conquest, while the Riverlands are on the brink of a Frey Civil War. The North will soon be struggling to survive the cold of winter, and must still prepare for the war against the Night King. King Euron Greyjoy gathers his armies and fleet in the Iron Islands, while the Night's Watch is on its last breath as Lord Beric Dondarion leads the Brotherhood without banners north. And even after so much damage, Lord Petyr Baelish plots against Jon Snow, while declaring to the Seven Kingdoms that the Vale fights with the North. All of this, and we are not even touching on the massive power vacuum in Essos, with the Dothraki, the most feared forces in all of Essos, no longer as numerous in the Dothraki Sea. How do you guys think Westeros will look like by the end of Season 7? Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a clear picture of the situation in Westeros.